A few years ago, a group of ag teachers sat together at a teacher conference having lunch. And the younger teacher said to the group, "I feel like I'm failing my students. I stay up half the night trying to tweak my lesson plans. I watch every YouTube video I can trying to improve my welding techniques. And I still can't even figure out how to get the district to approve my purchase orders." A veteran ag teacher leaned over and said, 20 years ago, I was you. I thought I had to do everything myself. I felt overwhelmed and I felt like I just was falling behind all of the time. But you know what I learned? The great ag teachers I know don't do it all by themselves. They build a solid network of people and tools around them to help them succeed. Your students don't need you to know everything. They need you to help them find the right answers. The key is to finding resources that play to your strengths and cover knowledge gaps. That conversation really hit home with me. It's not about being an expert in every area, but about building the right support and helping students bridge the gap between classroom learning and real-world application. Here's the thing. Connecting the show ring and the classroom may be challenging. And you may be even asking yourself, well, why would I do that to begin with? And the answer is simple: relevance. Now more than ever, students want to know why they have to learn about something. It's human nature. In fact, you may be sitting here starting this workshop asking yourself, why do I care and what's in it for me? It doesn't matter if you're teaching a principles class or advanced animal science. Students are looking for ways to connect the information in front of them to the environment around them. Connecting basic animal husbandry skills to something they can see themselves doing is a powerful way to improve retention. Not to mention, if you're trying to grow your program, showing kids videos where they can see their peers raising livestock piques their interest to do the same. According to Dr. Schauger's 2018 study, teachers are facing burnout because of three main reasons: time demand, managing multiple preps, and the lack of curriculum support. So what does that mean for you specifically? When you're managing multiple preps, it crushes your planning time. You can't just teach the same thing all day. This leads to an amplification of burnout because you're expected to be an expert in everything, or at least you think you are. Finding or adapting curriculum can be an overwhelming task, and it's hard to refine or improve your lessons when you're always in survival mode. And let's just keep piling it on. You have TEKS requirements that you have to meet. You may be coaching multiple teams. And we all know that livestock SAE projects are time-consuming to manage. One thing we probably don't talk about enough is the fact that livestock projects can be intimidating. If you didn't grow up showing, you may worry that someone might think you asked a dumb question. And let's not forget the elephant in the room. If you project or assign a video, you're competing with Reels, TikTok, and YouTube. Student expectations today are higher than they ever have been. In fact, anyone who's ever played a video that feels outdated can hear their students complaining in their ears as we speak. Studies show that many teachers don't make it past 5 years. I don't know about you, but I find that to be heartbreaking. Primarily because I know teachers start out so full of energy and determination to make a difference. And they do make a difference. How many people remember their freshman math teacher or their sophomore English teacher? Conversely, how many people remember their ag teacher? I know you're nodding your head right now because you know the amazing impact ag teachers have on students. I'd like to share a pretty incredible teacher with you. This is Wally. He's in the middle, pretty hard to miss with his coffee cup. Yes, this picture was taken a little bit ago. Wally was my high school ag teacher. And here's the thing. Wally was not a livestock expert. He was a viticulture guy. He was not out there clipping steers or fitting goats. In fact, at that point, no one was fitting goats. But he showed up for us in every way that mattered. When I wanted to be a state officer, I remember sitting and watching all the state officers up on that stage. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, these are my peers. And they're so incredible. I remember leaning over to Wally and saying, hey, I want to do that. Now I was a freshman, and I've seen plenty of adults dash kids' hopes because things are challenging or there's a long road ahead of them. But not Wally. He said, if you want to do it, then you can do it. When I told him I wanted to show, he didn't pretend to know it all. He didn't fake it. What he did was to give me full permission to go out and learn from people who knew more than he did. That one decision changed everything. Wally modeled something every ag teacher needs to hear. You don't need to be an expert in every species, or anything for that matter. You just have to find the right tools and be willing to put them in your students' hands. And here's something practical you can use when students ask, why do I need to know this? You have some options. Maybe use the money angle. This skill will save you money, make you money, or prevent you from losing money on your project. Other times, it's a real-world bridge. Every veterinarian, ranch manager, or feed store owner needs to know this. For students with no ag background, use familiar comparisons. Fitting a steer for Fort Worth is like styling your hair before prom. Or reading a feed tag is like checking nutrition labels, but for animals. So what are some strategies that work? Before we look at any specific solution, let's talk about 4 strategies that work regardless of your budget or resources. The 15-minute Sunday rule. Identify one thing you can simplify or streamline for each prep. Maybe it's combining 2 activities into one, or finding a video that covers what used to take 3 separate handouts. The key is intentional efficiency rather than adding to your plate. Leverage student experts. If you have a kid whose family shows livestock, let them be your co-teacher. They get leadership experience, you get authentic knowledge, and other students often enjoy listening to their peers, sometimes even better than adults. Don't be afraid to say, Sarah knows more about this than I do. Sarah, can you show us? Community partnerships. Map out 3 local producers for 10-minute video calls. Most are happy to help, and it builds your network while reducing your prep time. A quick text asking, would you mind spending 10 minutes talking to my kids about selecting market lambs? It'll often get you a yes. Do a resource audit. What am I doing that maybe someone else could do better? What am I recreating that already exists? Where am I burning time without adding value? I don't know about you, but that's a big one for me. I think I'm adding value, but a lot of times I'm just burning time. Be ruthless about this. Your time is precious. So let's look at some more tips when you're evaluating tools that you can use in your program. Whether they're free downloads, paid programs, or something you're building yourself, here are 5 questions you could ask yourself. Do an alignment check. Does it do double duty? Does this match both the standards and help me with something else within my program? That's definitely a benefit. Engagement. Will this compete with their phones? If not, how can I add interaction, competition, or even hands-on activities and elements to increase engagement with those students? Is there an expertise gap? What do I need to learn before I can teach this confidently? Be honest. It's better to admit gaps than fake expertise. Scalability. Can I use it for beginning and advanced students with just a few tweaks? That's a pretty good tool. Parent communication. Can I use it to help communicate our program benefits to parents? How will it help parents better understand what we're doing and why their investment matters? Here is a real fact. When you're dealing with parents, and I can tell you because I have a freshman and I have one who already graduated, and I've been doing this my whole life in terms of raising livestock. But as a parent, when you go from having control over your kids and knowing what's going on to having a freshman boy and knowing nothing about what's going on, it's nice if you can have some communication. Really, you're dealing with two of the most important things to parents: their kids and their money when you're dealing with livestock projects. One of my favorite things about Show Smart has been traveling the country and learning from different experts. I always love learning where people are from, how they do things differently based on climate, environment, and all of the different things. And I guess right now is probably a pretty decent time to introduce myself. My name is Christina Ward, and I'm the founder of Show Smart. As you can tell from my accent, I am not from Texas. And actually, if you're wondering why I waited this long to introduce myself, it's because generally people start talking and telling you way more about themselves than you actually care about. But right now it's kind of relevant. So as I said, things are done differently in different areas. And I wanted to share a little bit of background so this next story has more impact for you. In California, we have a county fair system where pretty much all the animals sell. So as long as you show up with an animal that can make weight and is considered market ready, it will sell. So we have county fairs that may sell 20 lots. We have county fairs that may sell 1,000 lots. And I was at a show in 2019, and there was one chapter that had 20 pigs not make weight. 20. Not a weigh back, no weight cards. They run them across a scale, and if they're too light, they go home. Well, the kids can show in showmanship, but after showmanship, they load them up and they go home. No sale, no check. It was just a whole lot of disappointment, and to be honest, probably some embarrassment. It wasn't that the kids or the teachers weren't trying. The teacher was brand new to managing pig projects and had bought a group of pigs that was simply too young to realistically make weight by show day. If you raise livestock long enough, you'll learn the hard way on some things. I sure have. But that one decision made without the right support meant that 20 students missed out. These projects are emotional and financial investments. When we give teachers the right tools up front, they don't have to learn lessons the hard way, and neither do their students. What happens in the classroom has a great opportunity to set kids up for success in the show ring. I thought there had to be a better way. I'm not an ag teacher. I have tons of friends who are, but I come at it from an industry perspective. For over 20 years, I've worked in animal health, and my husband, boys, and I raise show cattle. I thought, how cool would it be if we could take students on virtual field trips to let them feel like they were stepping into the barn with experts who've dedicated their lives to raising livestock? So I started talking with teachers and industry folks, and I wanted to focus on people who judge at the highest levels and raise livestock that compete at the highest levels, but more importantly, are passionate about teaching the things that they have spent their lifetime learning in programs that they've been developing. It became readily apparent that we had the opportunity to take students from the most urban or rural parts of the country and give them equal opportunities to learn from these experts, while the experts support incredible teachers. So we know if we can build a solid foundation and ensure a baseline of knowledge across all students in a program, teachers can show up with confidence, even if they didn't grow up showing that species. Build a support system. Remember, no tool replaces community. Here's how you can build a support system. Find a mentor, a veteran ag teacher that will answer your questions without judgment. Every expert was once a beginner. Strategic social media following. Follow just 2 to 3 accounts per species that you teach or manage. Set a 10-minute daily limit to stay current without falling down rabbit holes. When you're at a conference, network. Find 2 to 3 people you can text when you're stuck. When you go to lunch, don't just sit with all the people that you've always known. Reach out and find more people. The wealth of knowledge at any given ag teacher conference is incredible, and you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Build a database of local experts and producers, vets, feed reps, feed store owners who love supporting ag education. Most of them will be happy to help you if you make it easy for them. As Wally would have told you, you don't need to be an expert in everything. You just need the right tools, and they should be easy to use. As in the case with Carmel, she didn't grow up showing sheep, but wanted something to give her confidence to teach her students. And let me add this. If your attention has drifted a little bit, come back to me because this is important. There are no extra points for pushing yourself to burnout. You don't have to do it all from scratch. So what does the right tool even look like? It's not something that's built to replace you. It supports what you teach and enables you to do what only you can do. As in the case with Tim, who values things that are not time-consuming or hard to implement, but allow students mastery of skills, and they reinforce what he's teaching. So what's the solution that we built for you? It's called ShowSmart. It's the ag teacher's go-to solution to engage students in the classroom and confidently manage livestock SAEs through proven programs and on-trend resources. If you've joined us in past workshops, thanks for joining us again. The feedback that we often get is that teachers would like us to go into more detail about ShowSmart. So that's what we're going to do right now. So what do you get? You get expert-led videos from industry professionals across the country. Built-in system-graded quizzes that you can download the results very easily. Because who really wants to sit around and grade quizzes anyway? And lesson plans that are aligned to standards and ready for you to use. There are over 20 days worth of lesson plans broken into 4 different units. As Ernesto told us, students get the chance to see real life scenarios and are able to make connections. So let's dive in. This is the ShowSmart HQ, and it houses everything that you would need to have as a teacher. We'll go through a few of the things that live in here though. So first of all, you will notice the community section. This is where we are going to start hosting more expert content and give teachers the opportunity to connect with each other across the country. We're very excited about this component. But if you want just kind of the more nuts and bolts of it, we have things like how to enroll your students and access student grades. As we talked about earlier, we have the lesson plans broken into 4 different units. We also have warm-up questions and exit tickets. And here's a little tip, whether you're using ShowSmart or anything else, you might always want to have a backup plan, like a 15-minute activity that's ready to use if technology fails or students finish early. You just never know. So one of the things that you could have handy are the warm-up questions and exit tickets. So just print these out, have them available in case something were to happen. But there are questions that you can go through. I'm not going to read to you, but things like discussing the benefits of one breed over another, grass-fed versus grain-fed, etc. And then we have a variety of just kind of fun classroom activities that you can use. These are great in a pinch. Then we have all of the videos. The videos are designed to take kids through from the very beginning of the project to the end of the project. Everything that they would need to know: facilities and equipment, selection, feeding, showmanship, teaching your lamb to brace or your hog to drive. All of those things you'll find. Most of the videos are somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes long. As we know, students have short attention spans. I have a short attention span, so I can appreciate that. But all of those videos sit right here. And your HQ is set up just a little bit differently than the way that the students are in terms of the layout. But beyond that, you actually have more in there as well. So your students will have the glossary and the parts identification. It will be filled for them. So this is what it looks like, not from the time that I was showing when I was a kid, just more current. Everything that we do, we try to keep it current, on trend, and interesting for kids. One of my favorite things that I've seen teachers do as an activity is give students whatever species they choose. Typically they break them into different groups with different species, and then kids are given X number of minutes to study the parts, and then they go out with sidewalk chalk and they draw as well. First of all, they draw the animal, which sometimes looks like a dinosaur, but that's fine. We really enjoy getting those videos back. But whoever gets the most parts most accurately wins. And then obviously it's up to you to decide what it is that they win. But that's a fun activity. And like I said, we really enjoy getting those videos back to post on social. Going back to what else you have in the printables, we have how to read a drug label, how to read a feed tag. We have a show packing list. The show packing lists are really designed to kind of have everything that you would ever need. We do have asterisks next to things that are perhaps not even legal to bring on the grounds. So always checking rules is so important, as you probably know, but we just try to draw attention to that. There are other ways that teachers will use it as well. For example, as a tool with parents at the beginning of the project, they might say, we have these items within our program. You need to have these items for your child. Another way you could use it is as an inventory list before the show. So you can make a shopping list before you need to head out to the stock show. All of these items live right here. You can just download them. Anything that says PDF, you can download. Realistically, probably my favorite part of the HQ is the searchability. For example, earlier in the presentation, you saw a video of Miles drawing a lamb. Well, that started out as a table. So if you're thinking, okay, I know he talked about a lamb looking like a table, where did that come up? You can simply write lamb table, and it's going to bring up anywhere that either a lamb or table came up, but it'll pull it up from the transcript. So from the most basic standpoint, we're going to try to take a lamb and we're going to design him similar to a table. That's from Miles's video. So if you're wanting to know where's the packing list, where's the drug label, we'll have teachers go to the bottom here where we break it out by species. So all of the things that would fall under the cattle obviously would be here. So let's say you are doing a nutrition section and you want to print out all of the health labels and do a comparison of macros and micros of different digestive systems. The last thing I want to draw your attention to is the students' results dashboard. That is where you would go to download all of your quiz scores, see student progress, and also see how many available seats that you have left. Now let's go look at what a student account looks like. You can see this student hasn't done anything yet. I wanted to give you an idea of what it would look like before they started. We start out with a glossary, but I wanted to point out that our glossary is not your typical glossary. So we will include things like a chromed up pig or a big backed calf, things that are more show ring oriented so that your students know what they're looking for or hearing when they see those in the videos. We also have the external parts diagram in there for the students to learn. Again, you have the version that is blank. You can use it however you'd like. So you have 3 different versions of these diagrams. Then we go into our videos, and each one of those videos is 5 to 7 minutes long. So the goat facility video, for example, you'll see it says prerequisite. So students have to complete one section before they can move on. So after they watch the video, then they could go on to the quiz. And I just wanted to show you what the quiz looks like. It's self-graded. It will tell them if they get it correct or incorrect. Again, they have to have 70% accuracy to move along. Each one of the species follows a similar pattern. The facility, equipment, selection, feeding, and health are all pretty much similar. Then we move on to whatever is applicable for that species, whether it be halter breaking your calf, teaching your lamb to brace, etc. And then we go into daily care, showmanship, and everything that students need to know to show. I did want to show you one of my very favorite videos, but we'll have to pop back over to the HQ because this student has not completed anything and it's further in. If we go into the pig videos, you'll see our showmanship videos have drone footage so that we can give students an idea of what those angles look like as they're showing. One time a teacher told me that her student came to her and said, well, showing pigs isn't that hard. And I thought, I am glad you think so. I don't necessarily agree, but I'm glad that you have some confidence. One time I was at a cattle show and there was a kid that was supposed to pull in third, but he didn't know if he went to the left or to the right of the two that were already there. So we're just trying to give him a little bit more ring awareness and a little bit more concept of what it should look like while they're there. Now, just like your students, we're going to take a virtual field trip and go spend some time in the barn with Steve Sturtz. Here is the goat health video.
In this module, we're going to talk about health. Health is a very important part of your project. When we look at health, most of our health that we're going to talk about is going to be preventative health. When you go to your breeder or the place that you buy your animal, you need to ask that breeder what vaccinations have been given, what protocols have been given for the basic health of your animal. Hopefully you've had 2 type C and D clostridial shots, which is overeating. You've had a tetanus toxoid or antitoxin for when the animal was worked. You have a sore mouth vaccine so that the animal has been exposed to sore mouth and will not get it again. And the animal has had some type of internal parasite regimen, whether one time being wormed or maybe several times being wormed, depending on the situation. Those things are important to write down, know what the animal was given and when, so that you can proceed from there in keeping your animal healthy. Obviously, if you don't know those things, or if you do not ask or they do not have that information, you want to assume your animal has had nothing. And so you want to start from the beginning. We need to have an overeating type C and D Clostridium perfringens shot. We need to do sore mouth if they haven't done sore mouth, or if you think there might be a chance of that, and we need to worm our animal. At this point, it's going to be a good idea to have a good veterinary-client relationship. You need to have a veterinarian that you know, that you've worked with, or get recommended to a veterinarian that knows something about goats and that you feel comfortable going to and asking these questions. Overeating is a clostridial disease that is very violent and very hard on animals, and there's basically no treatment for. And so a vaccination of Clostridial perfringens type C and D are very, very important. You may talk to your vet in the area. A Clostridial A may be important in your area depending on the region you're in. And then you can get on a regimen of either 30, 45, or 60 days of rotating wormers in these show animals to make sure that we do not have an internal parasite. So another thing that you can talk to your vet about is your external parasite program and the best way to keep external parasites off your goat. Lice are very visible and you can see. Sometimes you don't see mites, but if you see an animal biting at its hocks or biting at itself or consistently rubbing and you don't have lice, you may have a mite problem. Obviously, pink eye is a problem in all animals. It's no different than pink eye in humans. They get a cloudiness in eye, their eyes run, and they get watery. There are some antibiotics and some eye creams that can be given to your goat to get rid of pink eye. When we look at general health, we have to be able to identify when an animal's sick. Goats are very tough animals, contrary to popular belief. That is why it's sometimes hard to tell one's sick until they are very sick. And so there are some signs we can look at to see if an animal's sick. First and foremost, if the animal's not eating, when you go to dump feed out, if it doesn't come to the feed trough and just has a general unthriftiness about it, the animal's probably sick and doesn't feel good. We can look at nasal discharge, we can look at their eyes, we can obviously look at fecal matter and tell if maybe there's blood in the stool, if the stool's not solid, and things like that to tell if an animal's generally not feeling well. Urinary calculi, and it's basically because we don't have the proper calcium phosphorus ratio. Sometimes the reason we don't have the proper calcium phosphorus ratio is we're using a lot of supplemented additives that do not have a product called ammonium chloride in them. And when we get that balance of 2-to-1 off and we're not feeding enough of the base feed that has the 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio and also has ammonium chloride in it, then we are taking away from the fact that the animal's being treated for urinary calculi and for the fact that they're not getting the proper 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio. So when the animal his belly looks distended, when he's not urinating, when his ears go down, he doesn't look good. Sometimes we have people that don't notice it until they actually get secondary infections. And that's why it's oftentimes misdiagnosed. So make sure your animal has fresh feed and water, especially fresh water every day. The more an animal drinks, the more he urinates. We have some minerals out there that are made some of them have ammonium chloride in them. Some of them just have the proper calcium phosphorus ratio that they can eat as a supplement. If an animal is laying down and it gets up, the first thing it usually will do is stretch and urinate. And if we can watch these animals when they first get up, a lot of times we can tell if we have a problem right there. If they don't get up and stretch, they probably don't feel good. If they don't urinate, then we need to look at the urinary calculi thing. When we look at other problems in goats, coccidiosis has been a problem for years and has been misdiagnosed for years just based on an animal having diarrhea or bloody diarrhea. We can take a fecal into a vet and he can tell us whether we have coccidiosis. Ringworm is a very big problem, especially when you start going to shows. Now, you can get it in your barn, you can get it in your trailer. The best thing to do if you go to a lot of shows or you've been to a show and you have ringworm is to spray your animal down with a product, a fungicide that keeps the animal from getting ringworm. You can also spray your blankets in your trailer. Once you get ringworm, there are several treatments out there that are fungicides that you can put on the actual ringworm to get it to where it dries up and goes away and the hair grows back on it. Again, consult with your veterinarian on the best products he thinks to use if you have a ringworm problem. And most rules at most of your shows will have a dehorning or tipping rule, meaning that they have to be dehorned or tipped. What they mean by tipping is the animal's horn, if it has grown out some, you'll have to cut it and make it blunt. When we look at the animal's hooves, they grow quite rapidly when it's moist and when they're on a good feed and nutrition program. I suggest you check the hooves every 4 to 6 weeks to see if they need to be trimmed. We can trim the hooves with a regular hoof trimmer. You can buy them at any feed store. I would caution you not to trim the hooves within 2 weeks of a show, because when you trim the hooves, much like when you trim your nails, if you get back into the quick, they will be sore and tender and they won't be able to walk as well. There's different things that can be attributed to a cough. Obviously, dust can cause a cough. Allergies, animals can get allergies just like humans. It's something that we need to probably look at as far as other signs along with health to determine what's going on. The other thing that coughing a lot of times can cause is prolapse. Prolapse is a rectal prolapse when actually part of their colon comes out of their body. If the coughing's causing that, we obviously want to stop the coughing. So we need to figure out a way, either by taking the animal to the vet, seeing if there's something we can do to quit the coughing. Sometimes it can be the dust from your feed. So if you have a real dry feed and the molasses isn't as much on it and they're coughing because of that, you may want to take a supplement or additive that can wet that feed or put water on it and see if they'll eat wet feed. In summarizing this health module, the most important thing is when you buy your animal to try and find out from your breeder what vaccinations, what wormers, what things have been done up to this point. It's very important to check daily the health of your animal. Then get with your veterinarian and put a plan together of how you are going to continue with the most suitable vaccination program, health protocol, wormings for internal and external parasites. Always keep in mind the withdrawal times. If an animal isn't urinating, obviously we need to look at urinary calculi. If we have nasal discharge, we have coughing, we need to look at respiratory type things. If an animal has diarrhea, we need to look at E. coli's, coccidias, things like this. It's always important when you go to shows to look out for ringworm. And if anything concerns you, get with your advisor, get with your veterinarian, and see what the treatment might be or see what the problem might be. Try to identify that and be able to treat it in a way that is suitable for you, your veterinarian, and for the show that you're going to.
That's pretty much Show Smart in a nutshell. But we wanted to say thank you for spending time with us and give you something fun to take with you. So you are going to have access to a specific Show Smart module that was built just for this workshop. And in it, you'll get the goat health video with Steve Sturts, done for you lesson plan, and one of the auto-graded quizzes that you can go through with your students in class. And we certainly hope that you enjoy that. We love what Lori had to say about Show Smart. Show Smart gives them the why behind what they're doing. It's more meaningful than a worksheet. This is where you'll go to get your free lesson plan. I certainly appreciate the time that you have spent today and hope that you found value not only in the workshop, but you'll continue to take value from the free lesson plan. Hopefully we'll see you at the conference. Bye.